Good evening and welcome to another edition of Tok Piksa. Whenever there is a power outage and our homes are thrown into darkness, our first reaction is to voice our collective frustration at P&G Power. They are the service providers and they are responsible for reliable service. Tonight we speak to two general managers from P&G Power whose areas of responsibility will hopefully provide us with some answers as to the reasons for delays in restoring power supply and, more importantly, what is being done now to improve the situation. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nero.
Mr. Owa, we'll start with you. Performance in engineering, when we hear the term engineering, we feel that it's a very technical term, and there's a lot of technicalities involved in that. Could you explain that for the normal PPL customer? What does your area of responsibility include?
Right. Thank you, Nero. Performance engineering covers three main areas. One is asset information, and that involves having a good register of all the assets that PPL owns.
Okay.
The second one is reliability engineering, and that involves activities or tasks like condition monitoring, which involves real-time health of the assets. And the other thing that we also do is root cause analysis with reliability engineering. And this is when we might have a big problem. So we go and do the cause and effect analysis and find out what's the root cause and what we can do to prevent that thing happening again. And the third function that the performance engineer looks after is maintenance planning. And that involves plant maintenance, defects maintenance, and that's basically what performance engineering covers. Yes.
So it's basically looking at what you need to get your work done and to see if there are any problems and to make sure that these problems are anticipated or at least expected to some degree.
Yes, with plant maintenance, maybe I'll go back a little bit in the history. In the old ELCOM days, we were using the manufacturer's specifications or manuals, operating in maintenance manuals, and we followed those. And those are based on time and frequency. Sometime in around 2000, I think we dropped all of that, and our culture changed a little bit, and we went into a mode which, is not something that we're proud of, but we went into areas where we run to fail, or fix on failure, and that's the thing that we are moving away from, where we are coming to condition monitoring and maintenance planning. So this is the area that we are in now.
How does the new culture flow down to the output that the customer sees? How does that influence that?
We should see a lot more reliability and improvements, in our service, in the service that we provide. And from what I think we can see in Mosby, during the some 5 years ago, when it rains very heavily, you can expect to have a blackout. Now, the chances are a little bit limited now, so I think we have improved significantly. So, during heavy rains, winds also, sometimes you are sure that there won't be any blackouts. So that's the way you can tell how the improvements have come about.
Okay. So there's more consistency in supply and distribution?
Yes.
And less downtime? Is that what you're trying to say?
That's right, yes.
Defects maintenance, it comes under your area of responsibility. Could you tell us more about what sort of usual defects there are and how you deal with them?
Right. Defects maintenance is usually, we identify the defects during our condition monitoring. And my team does thermal imaging, and thermal imaging involves our team using special equipment. And at the moment we use it mainly on our distribution lines. Okay. So they go and stand around, close to the lines and take the pictures of the lines. And they pick up if there's a loose connection, or if the conductors, which are the cables that you see around the, providing power around the place. If they are rusting, then you will see that there are hotspots created, and we identify those. And we have 4 categories. We identify them: critical, high, medium, and low. And the critical ones, you need to do them ASAP, as soon as possible. And that's because if you don't attend to that, the cable will surely break. So it will burn off and it will break, and that will cause blackouts.
So how often are these checks using thermal imaging? How often are they done?
At the moment, because we have lots of centers, and we have, only about 3 people on doing them, so it's done yearly.
Mr. Bigligan, we'll bring you in discussion this time. How does your section, operating and maintenance, how does that relate to Mr. Orwa's section? And I would assume you're the practical side of the maintenance.
Yes, Neville, thank you. Operating and maintenance work in partnership with Promise Engineering. My business unit, basically, we operate and maintain all our assets around the country. And my team is also the 24/7 to say, we operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, to make sure lights are on. So we make sure we run the power stations, both hydro and diesel, in all the centers throughout the country. And we transport the power produced from the power stations to the power lines. So we have 2 sets of power lines: the transmission group and the distribution group. So the transmission group is basically from voltages from 30,000 volts up to 132,000 volts. That group, we normally refer to them as a transmission group. They deal with high voltages. The distribution group, they deal with 240 volts up to 22,000 volts. Say in Port Moresby, we are distributing power in the city using 11,000 volts. So my group basically produce power, transport it, and then sell it. And my group also goes out and bill the customers and then collect the money. So that's basically what operating maintenance does. So we make sure all the infrastructure is operating and running. And if we have any problems, that's where Alex's group comes in. And we check on what's happening. He then provides the maintenance plan. And then my men go out and do the actual work on site, whether it's in a power station, transmission lines, or distribution lines. So that's basically where my group comes in, and my group is spread all across the country.
You're watching Tok Piksa. Although we readily criticize PNG Power for every blackout, there are factors that impinge on how long PPL technicians take to get power back up and running after every outage. According to PPL, these delays will be cut back in months to come. There's been an issue in recent years with regards to the standard and the types of generators outside of Port Moresby in the provinces. I understand Mr. Tangit in our last conversation said that there were refurbishments going on to upgrade and standardize all these machines. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, at the moment, we have all sorts of machines in the country. Some of them have been there for the last 20 years, 30 years. And as a result, we have all sorts of machines. So when it comes to maintenance, it's quite difficult in terms of parts and quick turnaround and getting the machines back running. So what I'm doing now is we're trying to standardize so that we have only one type of machine, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 types in the country where it will become easy for us. If a breakdown, you can simply just get another part and send it to another center. So we're trying to look at having the same maybe Caterpillars or Cummins
Okay.
or English Electrics. So there are a lot of brands of machines available now in the market. But the other thing we got to be careful of is we may go for an engine which is cheap. It may cost us a lot more in maintenance, which means that there'll be a lot more power down because we are maintaining machines. So we are going to go out on tender and ask for interest, and companies come in and put their bids. Then we'll assess and try and standardize. So if you're going to have let's say, have a Caterpillar engine in Daru, then you must have one in Kerama and probably Alatau. So it's easy for parts. And when we do that, if there's a problem, we can turn the machine around quickly and get power back quickly.
Now, with regards to transmission, I think with the heavy rains you've been having, that causes a lot of problems for your section, power poles being washed away and stuff like that. How do you deal with that?
The transmission, we basically have three systems. The support Mosby system,
Okay.
the Ramu system, which includes Medanglay and all the highlands,
Yes.
and the Gazelle system, which is up in Kokopo. Now, the transmission system has a number of issues affecting power going up. We have rivers like floods, threatening towers. Sometimes a landslide comes in, especially in the highlands. The tower is threatened or it goes off. Sometimes lines snap off because of maybe wind or movements in the land. And we also have a lot of issues about landowners blocking access to our sites. So when landowners come in, we'll have to deal with them and then find a way to. We do not use police. We talk to the landowners.
Okay.
We are engaging them as our partners by awarding them contracts to clean our access roads, the transmission lines, power poles. So our lands people have gone out, we've done a social mapping. So we engage the landowners to work with us as partners.
With regards to transmission, are there any new areas that PPL is venturing into? Say suppliers-wise or anything?
The ideal way for the country is to connect up all the systems. There's a Mosby system to a Ramu system, and hopefully up to the CIPIC group. But as you know, the rugged terrain and the rivers and things like that, so that's been looked at in the bigger plan with the government's 2050 vision. But at the moment, we are concentrating on the areas where we are in and moving on with the government's rural education program in trying to extend lines and connect up more people onto the current systems we have. So transmission grids are the main three.
Okay.
All the others, they are on their own, standalone centers.
Okay. Now, I understand there's a pilot project in regards to distribution. There's a pilot project in Leh. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah. In Leh, the CEO has given us directions to go out and pilot the Leh project. What we're doing there is we're trying to do distribution automation.
Okay.
Now, at the moment, all our distributions are manually operated. That means our guys, if a line goes down, our guys get a call, they drive out, they try and check around where the line is. With that, it takes quite a while to restore power. Now, if we're going to restore power quickly, we have to move into distribution automation. That is where we're going to install, they call it smart meters, where it's available in the market now in the world, where we install devices on the power lines, and these devices will actually talk to themselves. And if a fault occurs somewhere, that particular area where the fault is will be isolated, and supply to other areas will be restored very quickly. So Leh is now the pilot project which we are doing.
How far?
I'm not responsible for it, but it's not a GM responsible.
Okay.
But my men are also working with on that project.
Where are we sourcing this new technology from?
I think we go source from the U.S.
Okay.
and could be some other countries as well, because it's available in. It is now the way most countries are going.
Okay.
They call it smart grid. It's a smart grid, meaning that they'll basically be, the end result will be basically no blackouts.
Do we know when the pilot project will be up and running, and as by when?
Well, the project is already on.
You're watching Tok Piksa. Electricity bills are a monthly evil that PPL customers have to live with. But little do customers realize that it is an important revenue-raising measure for PPL and directly affects the standard of service that PPL is able to provide. Now to something that our customers will be interested in, and that's the bill repayments.
Yes.
It's something that PPL has been putting up public notices about a lot recent years. How does that, you deal with that? When customers don't pay their bills, what happens?
The biggest problem in the country at the moment with PNG Power bills is that a lot of our customers are just not paying their bills.
Why?
Although they get a bill, they probably come in and pay maybe 50% or maybe 20%. And then for them, they think that I paid my bill. For us, we needed money to improve on the infrastructure we have. You know that our infrastructure is about 30 years old, and it's just like all the other infrastructure in the country, it's falling apart. A lot of blackouts are happening because of that. So we have put up notices that we are going to do 100% disconnection. We have two groups of customers,
okay.
The major customers and the domestic customers. Major customers are people like the government departments. Now, the government departments, most of them don't pay their bills. They just don't pay until we go and disconnect. The companies, they are very good at paying their bills. So if everybody can pay their bills, then we can have that money to improve the infrastructure and keep the maintenance going so we have less blackouts.
It's interesting you mentioned that. Are there any reasons as to why government departments are not up to date with their bills when private companies are?
I think it all boils down to the management in the departments.
Okay.
I can't pin it to any other thing except management of departments, managing the money and making sure what is the priority areas.
Can you give a comparison as to how much the volume of unpaid bills are with regards to government departments as compared to private companies?
I think out of my head, by the end of last year we had about, I think the government owed PNG Power about 40 million.
That's a big amount.
That's all the government departments put together.
Put together collectively.
But that figure may have come down now because we have people going and talking to the government departments. We don't have the liberty to discount government departments because if we do, it's going to affect other services.
True.
So we just basically talk with them. And
the private sector has always been vocal about the supply of reliability and all these issues that they expect from PNG Power. Is there anything that they can contribute to help make everybody's lives easier?
Yeah, the private sector, they can contribute by a lot of the big private sector operations. They have a lot of equipment in there which is producing what they call reactive power. You can call it useless power. And in other countries in the world, you'll only connect the customer if his reactive power is up to a certain level.
I see.
But in Papua New Guinea, we don't have that. So if a customer comes up and sets up his operation and has a lot of motors and things like the machine running, those things produce reactive power, which is not good for our systems.
Do we have a standard or limit of reactive power that should be adhered to?
At this point in time, from what I know, we don't have anything like that.
Okay.
So we're trying to work on developing a standard so that Once somebody wants to come on, we will check your rectifier to make sure that's within a certain level, then you can come on, because if you do come on, you will affect other people on the system. That's one area where our network team, they are doing load surveys, and they are advising the big customers that you do have a issue here. But most people don't see the benefit of that yet. But it will improve the supply, but reduce the bills in the long run.
Well, Mr. Biglin, I think you've covered most of the areas, and I think the issue of payment of bills is a very important one.
Yes.
And you've touched on that, the comparisons between the private sector meeting their bills and government departments. That's also an important note. Is there anything else that the two of you would like to pass on to our viewers that they should be made aware of?
PNG Power, we operate 24 hours, 7 days a week service. And our infrastructure is just like any other infrastructure in the country. Over time, it has iterated. We have not invested a lot of money in there because the money that we are getting, if your customers don't pay, then you actually are running quite thin on it. And the other biggest expense that we have at the moment is the fuel bill. And all the centers we are running on diesel, we're not making money on it.
Sure.
So as a business, we really can't operate on that sort of note. Because all the centers which run diesels, we're not making money. And the fuel bills are pretty high. PNG Power use in a year approximately 240 million liters of fuel a year. So you get a figure and multiply it by the cost of fuel, and you can see how much money we spend on fuel in a year. And that's the biggest killer for PNG Power in terms of operations. It's one of the biggest costs we have.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Biglin. Mr. Ola, you have any final words?
One area where the public can also help us is try and prevent vandalism, which is something that also happens. People, get tree branches or wires or any foreign object and throw it on the lines, and that causes, blackouts. So if the public can help us, protect assets, because it also belongs to them. So if they can help us with that, that will improve the reliability that of the supply.
When we talk about PNG Power, most people will say that, why don't you just go down and buy a machine and bring it and replace an engine? In PNG Power, when you talk about buying a machine, a 500 kilowatt engine, you're probably looking at 600,000 plus. It's for one engine. If you're looking for a 1 megawatt or 1,000 kilowatt engine, you're looking at the moment, it's about 2 million. So that's why when people say that, why don't you just go and buy a new engine, it's pretty expensive. It's not like a car, it's only cost about 100,000. But we're talking about millions in terms of getting an engine in. So over time, you replace those machines. It cannot be done overnight. For PNG Power to really bring our game up to the level we have really 100% reliability, at this point in time, I would put a figure of injection. We need about $500 million. We need $500 million to really get the power supply up to what it should be. If we can't put $500 million, we can talk, but we will not get there.
Sure.
That's the figure I think we need to go out and invest in the machineries, the power lines, everything. Anything lower than that, we'll still be having blackouts. But we are doing everything possible with what we have and what we know. We're getting help from other people, apart from within the country. There are people from Australia, Japan, where we communicate with. They come in and help, but really the thing is the money. So if customers don't pay their bills, we don't get any money anywhere, then we are stuck with the situation.
True.
It's not an issue about our workers not knowing what they need to do, we have a highly qualified workforce, which is just the same as any other workforce anywhere in the world. But it's just a money thing that needs to be pumped in.
Okay. On that note, Mr. Bililian, Mr. Owa, thank you very much for your time on Tok Piksa, and I'm sure all the information that you've provided will help our viewers understand better the issues that PNG Power faces today in trying to provide at least close to 100% reliability. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
While there are unexpected power outages caused by Mother Nature, from time to time there are other factors that contribute to power outages that can be avoided. I hope tonight's episode has shed some light on these areas that are not only PPL's responsibility, but areas that the public, landowners, business houses, along with government state-owned agencies can improve to ensure consistent and properly regulated and maintained power supply. You can give your feedback on our Tok Piksa Facebook page, where you can also provide tips on anything you would like to see on the show. Until next time on Tok Piksa, I am Neville Choi. Good night.